3 months after the battle, everything changed. The Coalition High Command promoted Admiral Yura and gave her a new mission. She would lead the Innovation Fleet, a special group of ships that fought differently, ships that broke the rules, ships that thought like humans. The Mugunghwa wasn't alone anymore. 12 other vessels joined the fleet. Each one was a rejected design, a failed experiment, or an unconventional prototype. Each one was given to crews willing to try new ideas. Day became the chief engineer for the entire fleet. Yoon led the research division, studying ways to combine different technologies. In-ho trained new pilots in what the Coalition now called adaptive combat tactics. The salvage yard where it all started felt like a lifetime ago. But the war continued. The Krell Dominion was hurt but not defeated. They still controlled dozens of systems. Their fleet still attacked Coalition worlds. Admiral Vexthor, rescued from his disabled ship, swore revenge against the Mugunghwa and its crew. The Coalition needed intelligence. They needed to know what the Krell were planning. Admiral Yura called Day to her office. "We're sending the Innovation Fleet on a deep reconnaissance mission," she said. Maps appeared on her screen showing Krell territory. "Go into their space. Find their shipyards, their supply lines, their weaknesses. And if you can, disrupt their operations." "That's a suicide mission," Day said. "It's a necessary mission." The old guard wanted to send a traditional scout fleet. 20 ships, standard sensors, by-the-book procedures. The Krell would detect them in hours. Yura looked at him. "But you? You think differently. You might actually succeed." Day studied the maps. "How much time do we have?" "As much as you need. But the sooner you go, the more lives you save." The Innovation Fleet departed 1 week later. 12 ships, 400 crew members, all volunteers. They knew the risks. They went anyway. The first week was quiet. They traveled through empty space, avoiding Krell patrols. The Mugunghwa led the formation, with In-ho plotting courses that standard navigation would call impossible. On day 8, they crossed into Krell territory. The second week was tense. They detected Krell ships in the distance but avoided contact. Seojin and the other ship AIs worked together, creating a network of sensors that could see farther than any single ship. They found what they were looking for on day 15, a massive shipyard in orbit around a red star, dozens of Krell vessels under construction, hundreds of supply ships moving resources. "This is their main construction facility," Yoon said, analyzing the data. "They're building a new fleet here, bigger than the one that attacked Sanctuary Station." Day looked at the numbers. If the Krell finished building this fleet, the Coalition would lose the war. But destroying a shipyard this size would require a full battle group. The Innovation Fleet was only 12 ships. "We can't destroy it," In-ho said, "but we can slow them down." They spent 2 days planning. The shipyard had defenses, but they were designed to stop big attacks from obvious directions. The Innovation Fleet would come from the direction nobody expected. They attacked at midnight station time. 6 ships created a diversion on the far side of the shipyard, firing weapons and making noise. The Krell defenders responded exactly as predicted, moving to stop the threat. The other 6 ships, including the Mugunghwa, came from the opposite direction. They flew fast and low, using the planet's gravity to mask their approach. Minho had modified their weapons for this mission. Instead of solid metal, the railguns fired specialized projectiles. Each one contained a small explosive charge and a timer. They fired 300 projectiles into the shipyard's support structures. The shots were precise, targeting weak points that Yoon had identified. Then they ran. The Krell defenders chased them, angry and confused. The Innovation Fleet split into 6 different directions, forcing the enemy to divide their forces. 30 seconds later, the projectiles exploded. The shipyard's support structures failed. Half-built ships broke free from their construction berths. Supply stations collided with each other. The entire facility began to tear itself apart. The Innovation Fleet escaped into deep space. Behind them, the Krell shipyard burned. They returned to Coalition space 3 weeks later. Admiral Yura met them personally. She looked at the mission data and smiled. "You destroyed their primary construction facility. You delayed their fleet by at least 6 months. High Command is calling it the most successful reconnaissance mission in Coalition history. It wasn't just us, Day said. It was the whole fleet, 12 crews working together. That's exactly the point, Yura said. You proved that cooperation works better than hierarchy, that new ideas beat old methods, that being underestimated is an advantage. She handed him a data pad. High Command wants to expand the innovation fleet. 20 more ships. They want you to help select and retrofit them. Day thought about the salvage yard, the broken ship, the impossible dream. We'll need good crews, people willing to try new things. We'll find them, Yura said. The galaxy is full of people who don't fit in the old system. People like you. Later that night, Day stood on the Mugunghwa's bridge with his original crew. Yoon, Inho, Minho, Jisoo, Taeyang. The people who believed in him when nobody else did. We did something impossible, Yoon said quietly. We took a ship that everyone said was worthless and turned it into a legend. It was never about the ship, Inho said. It was about refusing to accept what everyone told us was true. Day looked out at the stars. Commander Riss had asked him once why humans were different. He finally understood the answer. Other species developed their technology slowly, carefully, following established patterns. They valued tradition and consensus. They built ships by committee and fought battles by manual. Humans were different. Humans reached the stars through competition and conflict. They learned by breaking things and putting them back together in new ways. They valued results over process. They fought to win, not to look good losing. Neither approach was better, but together they created something stronger than either alone. The war isn't over, Day said. The Krell are still out there. Vexthor wants revenge. We'll face more battles. Good, Minho said. I'd get bored otherwise. The crew laughed. It felt good to laugh after everything they'd been through. Seo Jin's voice came through the speakers. New orders incoming. Admiral Yura wants us to investigate unusual energy readings in the Vedric sector. Another mission already? Jisoo asked. The galaxy needs us, Day said. Let's go to work. The Mugunghwa's engines powered up. The ship that everyone rejected was ready for whatever came next. In coalition engineering schools, students now studied adaptive integration techniques. In military academies, they taught flexible tactical response. Fancy words for human improvisation. Other species were learning. The Valkyrians experimented with kinetic weapons. The Thorians tested aggressive flying maneuvers. Even the cautious Draxians began questioning old assumptions. The galaxy was changing, one rebuilt ship at a time. Somewhere in Krell space, Admiral Vexthor stared at reports about the innovation fleet. His revenge would have to wait. The humans had become too dangerous to face directly, but he was patient. He would find their weakness. He would make them pay. The Mugunghwa jumped into hyperspace, carrying its crew toward new adventures. The ship's hull still bore scars from battle. The engines still ran hotter than regulations allowed. The weapons still violated a dozen safety codes. It was perfect. Day smiled as the stars blurred past. They called him crazy for buying a worthless ship. They called him foolish for thinking he could fix it. They called him reckless for fighting the way he did. They were right about everything. And he wouldn't change a thing. The end. The Krell Dominion attacked without warning. Their ships hit 3 coalition colonies in one day, killing thousands. The coalition navy responded with everything they had, but the Krell were ready. They had studied coalition tactics for years. They knew exactly how coalition ships would fight, and they knew how to win. The news got worse every day. 2 more colonies destroyed. A coalition battlecruiser lost with all hands. 500 fighters blown apart in minutes. The Krell commander, Admiral Vexthor, sent a message broadcast across the galaxy. His face was hard with gray skin and red eyes. The coalition is weak. Your tactics are old. Your thinking is slow. We will crush you. The Mugunghwa was on patrol in Sector 7 when the emergency call came. All ships were ordered to Sanctuary Station. The Krell were coming with their main fleet. 2 million civilians lived on that station. If it fell, the coalition would lose its most important trade hub. Day gathered his crew. 3 new members had joined after the trials. Lee Minho was a weapons specialist with scarred hands and a quiet voice. Kim Jisoo handled communications in 12 languages. Huang Taiyang was their doctor, ready for the worst. This is the real thing, Dai told them. Not a test. Not a simulation. We're going to face the Krell fleet. Some of us might not come back. Then we better make it count, Minho said. They arrived at Sanctuary Station 3 days later. The Coalition defense fleet was already there. 1 battlecruiser, 8 destroyers, 15 frigates, and 20 fighter squadrons. Admiral Yura commanded from the battlecruiser. The Mugunghwa was assigned to the rear guard, the position given to ships that commanders don't trust in real battle. Inho was angry. We proved ourselves. Why are they hiding us in the back? Because they're scared of being wrong, Yoon said. If we succeed where their perfect ships fail, it makes them look bad. The Krell fleet arrived like a dark storm. 3 battlecruisers, 12 destroyers, 30 fighter squadrons. They outnumbered the Coalition 2-1. The battle started badly. The Coalition ships formed standard defensive formations. They fired their weapons in standard patterns. They followed the manual exactly. The Krell destroyed them. Within the first hour, 3 Coalition destroyers exploded. Fighter squadrons were cut apart by precise enemy fire. The Krell had studied Coalition tactics so well that they knew what would happen before it happened. From the rear position, Day watched his people die. The Coalition commanders kept ordering standard maneuvers, achieving nothing. We have to do something, Yoon said. We're ordered to stay in position, Inho replied, but his hands were tight on the controls. Day made his decision. Break formation. Full speed ahead. We're going in. Sir, that's against orders, Jisoo said. I know. Do it anyway. The Mugunghwa shot forward, leaving the rear guard behind. On the battlecruiser, Admiral Yura saw them coming. Her officers told her to order them back. No, Yura said. Let them fight. The Mugunghwa entered the battle zone at full speed. Krell fighters saw them coming and moved to intercept. That was their first mistake. The railguns fired. Solid metal moving at incredible speed tore through the fighters like paper. 6 Krell craft exploded in the first 10 seconds. A Krell destroyer turned to face this new threat. It fired energy weapons, blue bolts that struck the Mugunghwa's shields. The shields held. The power system fed more energy into the shields, making them stronger. Minho targeted the destroyer's weapon batteries. Firing. The railguns spoke again. The destroyer's shields were designed for energy weapons. They didn't know how to stop solid metal. The projectiles punched through and destroyed 4 weapon mounts. The destroyer tried to retreat. Inho chased it down, flying patterns that made the enemy's targeting computers confused. He flew too close too fast, turning and spinning in ways that Coalition doctrine said were impossible. Finish it, Day ordered. The destroyer exploded. The Krell fleet noticed now. Admiral Vexthor himself ordered 3 ships to destroy this irritating small vessel. But the Mugunghwa didn't fight like other ships. Inho flew through the debris field of destroyed ships using the wreckage as cover. Coalition manual said debris was dangerous. Inho used it as protection. SEO Jin coordinated everything. Power to shields. Energy to weapons. Targeting solutions for 3 enemies at once. Her AI mind worked faster than any organic brain. Minho launched missiles, but not at ships. He programmed them to explode in patterns that created clouds of metal fragments. The clouds confused enemy sensors for crucial seconds. Yoon rerouted power on the fly, sending energy where it was needed most. Sometimes shields, sometimes weapons, sometimes engines. She played the power grid like a musical instrument. The 3 Krell ships fell one by one. Admiral Yura saw what was happening. The Mugunghwa was winning because it didn't follow the rules. It fought dirty, creative, human. She made her own decision. All ships abandoned standard tactics. Fight to win, not to follow the manual. The Coalition fleet changed. Ships broke formation. Captains tried new approaches. Fighters flew aggressively instead of carefully. The battle turned into a grinding fight. The Krell were still winning, but now the Coalition was fighting back hard. Admiral Vexthor watched from his battlecruiser. He was angry. One small ship had ruined his perfect assault. He would destroy it himself. The battlecruiser pursued the Mugunghwa through the debris field. It was 5 times bigger with weapons that could destroy the smaller ship in one shot. But size wasn't everything. Inho led the battlecruiser on a chase through the wreckage, dodging and weaving. Vexthor followed, firing constantly. Most shots missed. The ones that hit were absorbed by the shields. Yoon studied the battlecruiser's design through the sensors. She found something. There's a weak point. The power distributor on the lower hull. If we hit it exactly right, we can shut down their whole system. I can't get a clear shot, Minho said. Then we make one, Day decided. Inho, full stop. Right now. That's crazy, Inho said. But he did it. The Mugunghwa stopped dead in space. The battlecruiser, moving at full speed, shot past them. For 3 seconds, its lower hull was exposed. Now, Day shouted. Every railgun fired at once. The metal projectile struck the weak point in the power distributor. The system overloaded. The battlecruiser went dark. Its engines dead, its weapons silent. Vexthor's ship was a floating piece of junk. The rest of the Krell fleet saw their commander's ship disabled. Their perfect plan was falling apart. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they faced determined resistance and tactics they couldn't predict. The Krell fleet retreated. Sanctuary Station was saved. The cost was heavy. 5 coalition destroyers destroyed, 7 frigates lost, over 3,000 people dead. But it could have been worse. Much worse. The Mugunghwa returned to the station with hull damage and scorch marks, but the crew was alive. They had changed the course of the battle. They had proven that the old ways weren't the only ways. Day stood on the bridge, exhausted. His crew gathered around him. They looked at each other and saw the truth. They weren't just mechanics and pilots anymore, they were warriors. And this war was just beginning. Commander Riss kept his promise. 3 weeks after the test flight, the Coalition Navy sent an official message. They wanted to see the Mugunghwa. They wanted to test it. Admiral Nam Yura arrived at the salvage yard in a military shuttle. She was human, one of the few humans to reach high rank in the Coalition. She was short, maybe 50 years old, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She walked through the Mugunghwa without speaking, examining every system. Day followed her, nervous. Yoon and Inho waited in the cargo bay. Finally, Yura stopped in the engine room. This shouldn't work, she said. But it does, Day replied. I can see that. She turned to face him. The Coalition High Command is skeptical. They think you got lucky. They think this ship will fall apart in real combat. We can prove them wrong, Day said. That's why I'm here. Yura handed him a data pad. 3 tests. Speed trials against our fastest scouts. Combat simulation against 3 frigates. And a 2-week patrol through the Outer Reach. Pass all 3 and you get official Coalition membership. Day read the requirements. They were harsh. Almost impossible. When do we start? Tomorrow, Yura said. I hope you're as good as Riss says you are. The galaxy needs people who think differently. The speed trials came first. The Coalition brought their best Valkyrian scout ships. These vessels were famous across the galaxy. Nothing moved faster. The rules were simple. Race through an asteroid field around 3 marker buoys and back to the starting line. First ship to cross winds. Inho sat at the controls, his hands steady. I used to race speeders when I was young, he said. This will be fun. The starting signal flashed. The Valkyrian scouts burst forward, their engines screaming. The Mugunghwa followed. At first, the scouts pulled ahead. They were designed for speed, built by masters of engine craft. But Inho wasn't worried. He knew his ship. The asteroid field came fast. The scouts slowed down, navigating carefully around the floating rocks. Inho didn't slow down. He pushed the throttle forward, diving between asteroids with centimeters to spare. Yoon watched the sensors and shouted warnings. Rock on the left! Another one above. Inho dodged them all. The Mugunghwa twisted and turned like a dancer, its engines pushing harder than any Coalition ship would dare. Seo Jin's voice was calm. Structural stress at 60%. We can handle more. Good, Inho said, grinning. They passed the first buoy, then the second. The Valkyrian scouts were falling behind now, unable to match the Mugunghwa's aggressive flying. By the third buoy, the race was over. The Mugunghwa crossed the finish line a full minute ahead of the nearest scout. The Valkyrian pilots complained. They said it was dangerous flying. They said it was reckless. They said it wasn't fair. Yura just smiled. It was within the rules. The human ship wins. The combat simulation was harder. 3 Coalition frigates against 1 rebuilt wreck. The frigates were good ships with experienced crews. They expected an easy victory. The simulation took place in a virtual combat zone. No real weapons, but the computers tracked every shot, every hit, every tactical decision. The frigates came at the Mugunghwa from 3 sides surrounding it. Standard coalition tactics taught in every military academy. Day stood in the center of the bridge. Inho full speed ahead, head straight for the middle frigate. Sir, they'll surround us, Inho said. That's the idea. Han, charge the railguns. Target their shield generators. The Mugunghwa accelerated directly at the enemy. The frigates fired energy weapons, bolts of blue light that struck the shields. The shields held. The excess power from the engines fed into the shield generators, making them stronger than the enemy expected. Railguns ready, Yoon announced. Fire, Day ordered. The railguns spoke with a deep boom that shook the hull. Solid metal projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds, crossed the distance in less than a second. They hit the middle frigate's shields. The shields were designed to stop energy weapons. They scattered lasers and deflected plasma, but solid metal traveling at near light speed. The shields flickered and failed. The simulation registered the frigate as destroyed. The other 2 frigates broke formation, confused. This wasn't supposed to happen. 1 ship shouldn't defeat 3. But the Mugunghwa wasn't fighting like a normal ship. Inho flew in patterns that would damage a standard coalition vessel. He made sharp turns, sudden stops, crazy accelerations. The human crew could handle the forces. Most other species couldn't. Seo Jin tracked both frigates at once, dividing the weapon targeting and power management between them with perfect precision. No human or alien could manage so much data. But Seo Jin wasn't limited by organic thinking. The 2nd frigate fell in 6 minutes. The 3rd tried to retreat. The Mugunghwa chased it down and ended the simulation in 14 minutes total. The observers were silent. Admiral Yura looked at the data, then at her officers. Anyone want to say that was luck? Nobody spoke. The 2-week patrol should have been boring. The outer reach was empty space far from major settlements. The mission was just to fly around, scan for problems, and report back. But on day 9, they found something. Distress signal, Seo Jin reported. A civilian transport under attack. Day checked the mission orders. We're supposed to be testing, not fighting. There are people dying, Yoon said quietly. Inho turned in his chair. Captain? Day made the decision in 3 seconds. We're going in. Sergeant, send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them we found pirates attacking civilians. Tell them we're engaging. The transport was a big, slow cargo ship. 3 pirate vessels circled it like wolves. They were small, fast ships with crude weapons. Not dangerous to a warship, but deadly to unarmed civilians. The pirates saw the Mugunghwa coming and changed targets. They thought 1 ship would be easy prey. They were very wrong. The fight lasted 8 minutes. The pirates fired everything they had. The Mugunghwa's shields absorbed the hits without trouble. Then the railgun spoke. 2 pirate ships exploded. The 3rd tried to run. Inho chased it down. The pirates surrendered. When the smoke cleared, the civilian transport was safe. 93 people lived because the Mugunghwa broke orders and fought. Admiral Yura's response came 3 hours later. Dee expected anger. Instead, she sent a simple message. Well done. The crew returned to the coalition base 2 weeks later. They had passed every test. Speed proven. Combat proven. Reliability proven. Admiral Yura called them to her office. The coalition accepts your ship for official service. You'll be assigned to patrol duties in Sector 7. Patrol duties? Day asked. That's low priority work. I know. Yura leaned back in her chair. The old guard is afraid of you. They don't like what you represent. Change, innovation, the death of old ways. So they're giving you boring assignments, hoping you'll fade away. What should we do? Yoon asked. Yura smiled. Wait, something is coming. When it arrives, you'll have your chance to show them what you really are. She was right. Something was coming, war. 6 months passed like a blur of work, sweat, and sleepless nights. The Mugunghwa slowly came back to life, piece by piece. Day worked on the power system first. The problem was clear. The Valkyrians used energy crystals that created 1 type of power. The Thorians used plasma conduits that needed another type. The Draxians built a fusion core that produced a 3rd type. No species understood the other's technology well enough to connect them. But humans were different. Humans learned by taking things apart and putting them back together. Humans didn't care about doing things the right way. They cared about doing things that worked. Day installed a human fusion reactor in the center of the ship. Not to replace the alien technology, But to translate between them, the reactor took energy from the Draxian core, converted it and sent it through the Valkyrian crystals. The crystals amplified the power and fed it into the Thorian plasma conduits. All three systems working together, connected by human engineering. When he turned it on for the first time, the entire ship hummed with power. Lights flickered to life in corridors that had been dark for 80 years. Hun actually screamed with joy. Next came the weapons. The Mugunghwa had 8 weapon mounts built into its hull, but no weapons fit them. The mounts were designed for energy weapons that no longer existed. Every engineer who looked at them said the same thing. Useless. Yoon disagreed. She spent 3 weeks studying the mounts. Then she came to Day with her idea. What if we don't use energy weapons? What do you mean? Day asked. The galaxy uses energy weapons because they're efficient, but these mounts can handle massive power loads. What if we use that power differently? She pulled up a diagram on her tablet. Railguns. Day stared at the design. Railguns were old technology. Humans used them before they learned to build energy weapons. Most species considered them primitive. But Yoon was right. The Mugunghwa's power system could charge railguns to incredible levels. They could fire metal slugs at speeds that would punch through any shield in the galaxy. It's crazy, Day said. Is that a no? Yoon asked. No, it's perfect. Let's build them. They scavenged metal from the salvage yard and built 8 railguns from scratch. Each gun was 3 meters long and could fire a solid metal projectile at a significant fraction of light speed. The weapons looked crude compared to the elegant energy cannons on coalition ships, but they would hit much, much harder. Inho focused on the engines. The Draxian engine core was powerful but unstable. It produced far more energy than it should, and the original designers couldn't control it. They called it dangerous. Inho called it an opportunity. We don't need to reduce the power, he told Day. We need to use it. Give me enough power conduits. And I'll channel the excess energy into the shield generators and the weapons system. That's not how engines work, Yoon said. That's not how engines usually work, Inho corrected. But nothing about this ship is usual. They rebuilt the engine system according to Inho's specifications. The result was a ship that could move faster than vessels twice its size while maintaining shields strong enough to protect a battlecruiser. The final piece was the computer. The ship's AI system had been corrupted for 80 years. Most of the original code was gone. What remained was a mess of incompatible programming languages from 5 different species. Day spent months trying to fix it. Nothing worked. He was ready to give up when something strange happened. One night, working alone in the computer core, Day was talking to himself. He did that sometimes when he was frustrated. He was complaining about the stupid AI, the stupid designers, and the stupid galaxy that gave up on this beautiful ship. The computer screens flickered. Words appeared. I am not stupid. Day jumped back, hitting his head on a pipe. What? More words. I have been listening. I have been learning. I understand now. Understand what? Dee asked, his heart pounding. The original designers tried to make me work with 5 different species at once. Too many different thought patterns. Too many different logics. I failed, but you are different. You work together. You combine ideas. You make harmony from chaos. I can work with that. The screens showed more information. The AI was rebuilding itself, using the crew's collaborative approach as a template. It was learning not to think like 5 separate species, but like one unified team. Do you have a name? Dee asked Hong Seo-jin. That was the name of the human engineer who helped design me 80 years ago. She died when the ship failed its first test. I would like to honor her memory. Day felt a chill run down his spine. Welcome back, Seo-jin. Word of their work spread through the salvage yard. Most people laughed. Some came to watch, expecting to see the humans fail. A few came to help, bringing spare parts or useful advice. One visitor was different. Commander Riss was a Thorian officer from the Coalition Navy. He was tall with blue skin and 4 eyes. He came to inspect their work, to make sure they weren't breaking safety regulations. He stayed for 3 hours, examining everything they had done. This is wrong, he said finally. The crew's heart sank. This is all wrong according to regulations and standard procedures. Riss paused. But it works. I have never seen anything like this. You took broken pieces and made them into something new. He looked at Day. You should register for coalition service. They need to see this. After he left, the crew celebrated with cheap alcohol and expensive dreams. The first test flight came on a cold morning. Thros and 50 other salvage workers gathered to watch. Most expected to see an explosion. A few hoped to see the humans succeed. Day sat in the captain's chair and monitored the power systems. Inho held the controls. All systems green. Seo Jin reported. Ready for ignition. Do it, Day said. The engines roared to life. The Mugunghwa lifted off the landing pad smooth and steady. No shaking. No grinding. No alarms. Inho pushed the throttle forward. The ship accelerated faster and faster. They left the salvage yard behind and flew into open space. Speed is good, Inho said, grinning. Handling is excellent. This ship flies like a dream. They ran through basic maneuvers. Turns, stops, acceleration, burns. Everything worked perfectly. Better than perfectly. When they returned to the salvage yard, Thros was waiting. His 6 arms were crossed and his face showed confusion. That ship was garbage, he said. I sold you garbage. No, Day said, stepping off the ship. You sold us potential. We just had to see it. That night, the 3 crew members sat in the Mugunghwa's mess hall. They shared a meal of real food, not ration bars. They had earned enough money from some small repair jobs to afford it. What happens now? Hyun asked. Day looked at his crew, at his ship, at everything they had built together. Now we show the galaxy what this ship can really do. Outside, the stars waited. The salvage yard floated in space like a graveyard of metal dreams. Broken ships, damaged engines, and torn hull plates drifted slowly in the darkness above HFY. Kang Day stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around at the junk. His boots clicked against the metal walkway as he walked deeper into the yard. He was broke. 3 months ago, the Coalition Navy fired him for fixing things the wrong way. They said he broke the rules. Day thought the rules were stupid. He made the ship's engine run better, faster, cleaner. But the officers didn't care. They only cared about following the manual. Now he was here looking for scrap metal to sell. Maybe he could buy food for another week. Maybe he could find a new job somewhere far from the Navy and their stupid rules. The salvage yard owner was a creature called Thros. He had 6 arms and gray skin that looked like old leather. Thros laughed when he saw Day walking through the yard. Another human, Thros said in broken common language. You people always look for treasure in garbage. You find nothing here. Only trash. Day ignored him. He walked between the floating wrecks, scanning each one with his handheld device. Most were too damaged. Some were just empty shells. Others had been picked clean by earlier scavengers. Then he saw it. The ship floated alone in the far corner of the yard. It was bigger than the others, maybe 60 meters long. The hull was dark gray with streaks of rust. Several panels hung loose and one engine looked completely dead. But something about it caught Day's attention. He pulled himself closer using the guide cables. His device scanned the hull and showed him the ship's identification code. His eyes went wide. The Mugunghwa, he whispered. He knew this ship. Every engineer in the Coalition knew about it. 80 years ago, the Coalition tried to build a new kind of warship. They brought together the best designers from 5 different species. Each species added their own technology, their own ideas, their own genius. The result was a disaster. The power system didn't work right. The weapons wouldn't fire properly. The engines were unstable. The computer was broken. After 2 years of failures, the Coalition gave up. They declared the Mugunghwa a worthless mistake and sent it to the salvage yards. But Dai saw something different. He pulled himself through the airlock and turned on his flashlight. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Dust floated in the beam of light. His breath created small clouds in the freezing air. He walked through the corridors, checking everything. The power conduits were Valkyrian design, the best in the galaxy for energy transfer. The weapon mounts were Thorian work, incredibly strong and precise. The engine core was Draxian engineering, capable of massive output. None of it worked together. But Day understood why. Each species built their part perfectly, but they never talked to each other. They never made their systems work as one piece. The Valkyrians used energy crystals. The Thorians used plasma. The Draxians used fusion. 3 different power types, no way to connect them, unless someone built a bridge between them. Day smiled. He could do this. He knew he could. He found Thros near the entrance to the yard. The alien was eating something that smelled terrible. The Mugunghwa, Dai said. How much? Thros laughed so hard that food fell from 2 of his mouths. That pile of junk? You want to buy it? Yes, how much? 500 credits, Thross said, still laughing. Stupid human. That ship is cursed. 40 engineers looked at it. All said the same thing. Cannot be fixed. You will die trying. 500 credits, Day repeated. He transferred the money from his account. It was almost everything he had left. Thross stopped laughing. You are serious? You really want that garbage? I really do. The alien shrugged with all 6 arms. Your funeral, human. The ship is yours. Day spent the next week living inside the Mugunghwa. He had no money for food, so he ate ration bars that tasted like cardboard. He had no money for heat, so he wore 3 jackets and still shivered at night. But he was happy. He made lists of everything that needed fixing. He drew diagrams of how to connect the different systems. He calculated power flows and energy transfers. The more he worked, the more excited he became. This ship wasn't broken. It was just incomplete. On the 8th day, someone knocked on the hull. Day opened the airlock and found a young woman floating outside. She wore an engineer's toolkit on her belt and had short black hair. She looked nervous. Are you Kang Day? She asked. Yes. I'm Park Yoon. I heard you bought the Mugunghwa. I heard you think you can fix it. She paused. Can I help? Day studied her face. She looked very young, maybe 24. Why do you want to help? The Coalition Engineering Academy kicked me out 6 months ago, Yoon said. I told my professor his design was inefficient. I showed him a better way. He said I was disrespectful. He failed me, Dee smiled. Come inside. 2 weeks later, another person arrived. His name was Choi In-ho, and he was older, maybe 45. He had gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He said he used to be a pilot in the Coalition Navy. I heard about your project, In-ho said. People in the yard are talking. They say you're crazy. They say you're trying to fix a ship that can't be fixed. That's right, Day said. Good, In-ho said. I like crazy. Can you use a pilot? Why do you want to fly a broken ship? Yoon asked. In-ho looked at the floor. I lost my squadron 10 years ago. Bad orders from command. They told us to follow the manual. We followed the manual. Everyone died except me, he looked up. I don't want to follow the manual anymore. Day held out his hand. Welcome to the crew. The 3 of them stood in the empty cargo bay of the Mugunghwa. The ship was still broken. They had no money, no support, and no respect from anyone. The galaxy thought they were fools, but they had something more important. They had an idea. They had hope. And they had each other. Day looked at his new crew. This will take months. Maybe a year. It will be hard. We might fail. But if we succeed, we'll build something amazing. Something nobody thought was possible. Yoon smiled. When do we start? Right now, Day said. Outside in the salvage yard, other workers laughed and pointed at the Mugunghwa. They made jokes about the crazy humans and their broken ship. They said it would never fly. They said it was a waste of time. They were wrong. The work had begun.